Welcome back, Wildcats. All right. So, what I want you to see here is that on Wednesday we reviewed the semester exam and we kind of went over the problems that you had trouble with. Well, one of the main issues that I saw when I looked over your fall semester exams was you all had trouble with reasonable domain and range. So, I've created a lesson that will help reteach that concept for you. Okay. So, that's going to be on page 40. So, if you would, pause the video and update your table of contents. All right, now that your table of contents are updated, let's look at our notes. All right, let's look at reasonable domain and range. All right, so the first thing, let's look at the definition of domain. Domain is a set of values of the independent variable for which a function or relation is defined. The keyword being independent. Okay, now some important things to connect with domain. And you can use Dixie-Royd. Don't know exactly what Dixie-Royd means, but it's, I guess, a catchphrase to kind of remember these. But domain includes input, the x-axis, and independent. And when I mean the x-axis, I mean you find the domain along the x-axis. All right, range. Range is a set of values of the dependent variable for which a function or relation is defined. And range is Royd, so that's the Royd part of Dixie-Royd. So included with that is output, the y-axis, and what we mean by y-axis is you look along the y-axis for the range, okay, and dependent, okay? So if you would, pause the video and update your notes. All right, now that your notes are updated, let's look at some examples. And I'm going to look at explain example 1 and 2 in the video. And we can look at example 3 and 4 in class. All right, example 1. Iced Tea's lemonade stand can sell at most 50 cups of lemonade in a day. Now it says her, but that should say his. Mr. T is a, or Iced Tea is a he, not a her. His daily profit is modeled, man, look at that. That should be an M. Modeled by P of C equals 0.75 C minus 8.75, where P is profit is a function of cup C. All right, so it says describe the independent variable. Now, the easiest way to find the independent variable is it's the variable inside the equation. Okay, so in this case, C is inside the equation, so C is the independent, which is the number of cups. All right, describe the dependent variable for this situation. Now, the dependent is almost always on the outside, so in this case, it's the P. Okay, so the P is profit, so the amount of profit. All right, now let's look at describe the domain for the context of this problem. Okay, so it says Iced Tea's lemonade stand can sell at most 50 cups of lemonade in a day. His daily profit is modeled by P of C 0.75 C minus 8.75. All right, so first off, the domain we're talking about is cups. Well, the smallest amount of cups you can have is 0. Okay? And that is less than or equal to C, which is cups. But that's less than or equal to 50. Okay? So what that means is that the cups can be between 0 and 50. But there's a problem with that. You can't, this says that includes 0.5 cups, 0.75 cups, a cup and a half, a cup and a third. So you have to be more specific. So what you have to say is that C is the element of the whole numbers. You have to be specific because you have to say, by the way, that's basically, by saying that, you're now saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50 cups. Okay. Now, because I've just kind of opened up that, we need to go back in our notes and review whole numbers, real numbers, rational numbers. So if you would, pause for a second. I'm going to get the notes for that, and I'll be right back. All right. So let me throw it in here. All right. So in our notes on page 3, we had sets of numbers and notation. So let's look at that now. All right. So moving around here. All right. So let's do a quick review of numbers. Okay. So natural numbers are 1, 2, 3, ... 4, 5, so on. Okay. Whole numbers include 0. That's why the cups, we're saying a whole number is not natural, because technically you have 0 cups. Okay, so whole numbers include the value 0. Integers include negative numbers, okay, and rational numbers are fractions, okay. And then all of these are included in the real numbers, okay. Now you'll notice there's a side circle of irrational numbers, which at this moment we're not going to really talk about, but just know they exist, okay. So kind of review this, because you're going to need to now, on your assignment, in the examples, you have to identify, is the answer natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, or rational numbers, or just real numbers, which include any of these, okay. All right, so let's look at here. Describe the range for the context of this problem. Okay, so first off, the range, when it comes to profit, we start out with a negative profit, okay? If we have 0 cups, then 0.75 times 0, so that's P of 0, so that means the profit when you have 0 cups is equal to 0.750 minus 8.75. Well, when you have 0 cup, your profit's negative 8.75. Okay, so our range starts at negative 8.75. Now we know that our profit has to be greater than or equal to that, but it's less than or equal to, we can sell at most 50 cups. So what we need to now look at is P of 50. So that's 0.75 times 50 minus 8.75. And basically, if you plug this in your calculator, 0.75 times 50 minus 8.75, it'll come out to $28.75. Now again, you need to be specific of what P can be. In this case, because we're talking about money, it can be natural because all those are included, whole numbers, and it can be rational because technically you can have half a dollar, you can have a third of a dollar, you can have 2/5 of a dollar profit. Okay, so those come out to be. So what we're saying is P is an element of the real numbers. Comma, should be a comma there. So again, you have to be specific about what types of numbers. And that's really the part y'all had trouble with. Y'all don't really have trouble with this part so much, but it's this part, understanding what type of numbers those solutions can be. All right, let's look at example number 2. The area of a circle is found by area equals pi r squared. Your teacher asks you to construct a circle that has a radius of at least 2 inches. All right? So again, the independent's almost always, I say almost always, the inside letter. So the inside letter in the equation is r. So your independent value is the radius. Okay, and then the dependent's almost always on the outside. So in this case, it's the area. All right. Now, to describe the remaining context, it says that the radius has to be at least 2. Okay? So when we talk about at least 2, think of it like this. When they use the word at least, let's put it in context. You have to be at least 18 years old to vote. You have to be at least 21 years old to drink alcohol legally. You have to be at least, I believe, I'm old now. Back when I was a kid, they didn't have cars. You have to be at least 16, I think, to drive a car legally. So that's your context. So when you think of at least, think of situations where you say at least, or I think a lot of you have been to Six Flags where it says you have to be at least this tall to ride the ride, or in Disney World, things like that. So in this case, we have to start at 2. So our domain starts at 2. And we're saying the radius can be anything greater than or equal to 2. But in this case, again, r is an element of the reals, because technically you can have 2.01 inches, 2.02, 2.5. You can basically have any number system. And I put real, but really, I was about to write out reals, but let's just use the double R symbol for reals. And again, this is the important part of this lesson. This is the part y'all had trouble with on the semester exam, is knowing what kind of numbers are included in the domain range. All right, so in the range, so we start basically at 2. Okay, so we're going to do our area equals pi times 2 squared, which you put that in your calculator, you'll get 12.56. So our area is greater than or equal to 12.56, which in this case, our area, again, is an element of all real numbers. Because basically, you can pick, as long as the number is greater than 12.56, that area could be included. All right, so that gets you through 2 of the examples. I think you should be able to do example 3 after watching example 1 and 2. You might have a little bit of trouble on example number 4, but I want to talk about example 4 in class. Okay? So if you would, finish up your video, get your notes ready, and be ready for class on Thursday. And as always, have, in this case, how I should say, I'm lost for words now. An instant growth of hair Wildcat Day.